All right, so for this video, we're going to multiply and divide with sign decimals. I'm going to teach you an easy way to multiply decimals if you haven't already seen it. It's super easy. And then we're going to talk about dividing decimals, and then you'll have homework. For those people who haven't finished the test, I know Marla, you didn't finish your test. Gabe, you came in 6th period and finished your test on Thursday, I believe. But there were a few more that didn't finish their test. I am going to need to do something to I think what I'm gonna do is see if I can get Coach Thomas to let you finish the test during his planning period or during an intervention time. I have him get with you um, and see when you can get that test finished sometime this week. Okay, so I didn't forget about you. I just want to let you know that. And if I can't get Coach Thomas, I may get Miss Jones to get the test off of my table and then let you all take it when it's a convenient time for her. But some kind of way we'll get it done. But let's go ahead and get into this lesson. All right, so to multiply decimals, I'm just going to go off of like what you should have learned in elementary school. What you're going to do is count the number of digits behind the decimals in the problem. You're going to save this number in your memory. So you're going to push it down in your head. You don't want to forget that number. Like, these are called factors, guys. So the numbers you multiply are called factors. You're going to count the number of numbers behind the decimal in each factor. So in this factor, there are 2 numbers behind the decimal. In that factor, there are 2. So the entire problem, there are 4. So you want to commit that to memory, okay? All right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this one first. Let's talk about this one. Let's go through A through C with this one. So I'm going to commit 4 to my memory. So now on part B, I'm going to ignore the decimals and multiply as I usually do. So I'm going to take 123. It's the longest number. Not necessarily concerned about what's bigger, but 123 is longest. I'm going to multiply it times 39. And I'm just going to start multiplying. I need more room. And this is A. 123 times 39. Now, I don't know how you all were taught to multiply. Some of you may have been taught the partial products, but you should have learned a standard algorithm last year. So we're going to start off with 9. I'm going to multiply it by 3. And I'm just going to continue to work my way from right to left, okay? So right to left. Go this way. So 9 times 3 is 27. Carry the 2. 9 times 2 is 18. And you add what you carry. 18 plus 2 is 20. Write the 0. Carry the 2. 9 times 1 is 9 plus the 2 is 11. So no place to carry that 1, so I write the whole entire 11. Now, I've multiplied by the 9, so that's done. And I'm going to erase the numbers that I've carried at the top because I don't need them anymore. Now the only number to multiply by is the 3. So now I'm just going to multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 goes here because 3 is in the tens place. So when I say 3 times 3, it's not 3 times 3. It's actually 30 times 3, which is 90. I'm going to put a placeholder of 0 there. So I know not to start there. So always before you start on that second number, put a placeholder. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 5 is 15. I'm sorry, guys. That's 3 times 2. Sorry. 3 times 2 is 6. And 3 times 1 is 3. I'm just going to add up what I have. 7. Let's make that look a little better. 7, 9, 4. My goodness. That's definitely not 4. 7, 9, 7, and then that's 4. So when I add up, that's what I have. So now multiply by the 9 and the 3. Put the 3, the 2, and the 1. All right, so what I'll do now is that number that I committed to memory, Part C is going to tell us what to do. So we're right here. Time needs that number we saved. So you put your pencil at the end of your product. Your product is the answer that you get after you multiply. You're going to move your invisible decimal to the left, the same number of spaces as the number you saved. And you're going to place your decimal at that exact spot you stopped. So the number I committed to memory was 4. So you can go to the very end, go into your product, and go to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And where you stop is where your decimal goes. And you're allowed to add a 0 there, okay? And that's how you multiply decimals. This is something you should have learned in grade 6. My goodness. It's not my night. So this is the answer. Okay, so now. All right, guys. I'm making a video too. It's okay. It's okay. You come on in. I will spray after y'all go through. Y'all going through. All right, let's take a look at the second one I want to talk about. We're going to do it using the same format, okay? So I'm going to count the number of numbers in my factor. So in this factor, well, numbers behind the decimal factors. In this factor, I have 1 digit behind it. In this factor, I have 2, which makes a total of 3 digits behind my decimals and my factors, okay? My multiplication problem. So now all I do is ignore the decimals and multiply as usual. So I'm looking at it as 0.1. It's just going to be 1 times, instead of 0.23, 1 times 23. And we all know that 23 times 1 is 23. So now I'm now committed 3 to memory, right? So I put my pencil at the end and move 1, 2, 3 spaces. But you see you have an empty spot, so put a 0. Put a 0 in any empty spaces that you see. And you're allowed to add a 0 in front of that. So this new number is simply 23 thousandths. That's all you do. It's just that simple. And then, of course, let's look at one more, guys. And make sure you're taking notes. So looking at this one, there are no decimal. No, not a decimal there. And then there are 2 numbers behind the decimal here. So I'm going to commit the number 2 to memory. And I'm going to multiply as if I don't see the decimal. So it's really going to be 4 times 25. So I'm just going to set it up as 25 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8. But 8 plus the 2 is 10. Now I committed the number 2 to memory. So start at the end and go 1, 2. So basically, this is just equal to the number 1. And that's all you do. But the thing is, now we're going to be working with signed decimals. Basically, it's going to have negatives with it, but it's the same process. Now, when you add and subtract decimals, the decimals must be lined up. So don't get that mixed up with multiplying and dividing. Multiplication, you can ignore the decimal. But with addition and subtraction, the decimal has to stay. It needs to be lined up, okay? Okay, let's take a look at this page. We're going to do this with some signs. Now, I'm going to recall signs real quick. For multiplication, I gave you all the smiley face. Suppose you had something like negative 4 times 5. You could cross out a negative and a positive, and you're left with a negative, so this equals negative 20. All right, or suppose I gave you something like this. I'm going to wipe this away, and make sure you're taking notes, guys. If you have negative 8 times negative 10. Then you have a negative 8, cross it out. A negative 10, cross it out. What's left is a positive? That's positive 80. So I know with addition and subtraction, it was same direction add, different direction subtract. But with multiplication and division, remember the rules are different, okay? Now, some of you are just going to remember same signs will produce a positive, and that's if you multiply or divide. And different signs will produce a negative. Okay, and this works only for multiplication and division. Now keep in mind, for addition and subtraction, it's direction, same direction add, different direction subtract, okay? All right, so there's also another set of rules you can use for multiplication and division. You can look at the number of negatives that you have, guys. An odd number of negatives will produce a negative. Say, for instance, here, that's 1 negative, 2 negatives, 3 negatives. 3 is an odd number. So this would end up being negative something. So I'll just say 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 1 is 6. And 6 times 5 is 30. So I know it's going to be negative 30. Let's take a look at this one. I have a negative here. That's 1, 2 negatives, 3 negatives, 4 negatives, 5 negatives. 5 is an odd number. So I know my answer is going to be negative something. Well, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 times 1 is 16. So the answer would be negative 16. So you can just remember that an odd number of negatives is negative, guys, if you're multiplying or dividing. But what about an even number of negatives if you're multiplying or dividing? You get a positive. So in this particular case, I have 1 negative, 2 negatives, 3 negatives, 4 negatives. I'm going to get a positive something. Well, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60, so I'm going to get a positive 60. You can do it that way. Here, look at this example. That's 1 negative, 2 negatives. So 2 is an even number, and 4 was an even number. 2 is also an even number. So I have an even number of negatives that produces a positive. 9 times 2 is 18, and 18 times 1 is still 18. So you can remember your even odd rule if for multiplication and division of sign numbers, okay? An even number of negatives will produce a positive, and an odd number of negatives will produce a negative. That's another rule I didn't tell you about earlier, but I wanted to show that to you. All right, back to this, guys. Part A says count the number of numbers behind each decimal. Here, 1, here, 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Keep 2 in your head. B, multiply this as if you don't see the decimal. So 123 times 4. So 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. 4 plus 1 is 4. And then I'm going to use the 2. So start at the back and slide 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So my answer to this, with sign and all, I know I have a negative times a positive. It's going to be negative 4 and 92 hundredths. That's all you do. All right, let's try number 2. Number 2, I'm going to look and see how many numbers behind this decimal. 2. How many behind that one? 2. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Part B, I'm going to multiply this without the decimal. So I'm going to multiply that as 23 times 28. And 8 times 3 is 24. Write the 4 and carry the 2. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 plus 2 is 18. Carry the 1. 8 times 3 is 24. And add the 1 I carry is 25. Okay, I've used the 1. I've used the 2. I'm going to erase them. And put that 3 back. Sorry, guys. All right, so before I start with the 2, I'm going to put a placeholder of 0. And let's start multiplying by 2. Well, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. And 2 times 3 again is 6. And just add it up. 4, 14. Let's carry the 1. 10, carry the 1. 9. I committed 4 to memory. I start at the back and move slide 4 places over. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm able to add a decimal. A 0. Now part C, let's make sure I choose my sign. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm good to go. Well, that actually was part C right there, okay? This is part C, but I also want to choose a sign. Some of us forget to do that. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to use the even odd rule down here. Here I see 1 negative, 2 negatives. So I see 2 is an even number. So I know my answer is going to be positive something, okay? Figure out what that is in a minute. All right, so on part B, let's multiply this as 106. I'm going to take these two. Excuse me, not 106. 103 times 6. All right, 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 6 times 0 is 0. Plus the 1 is 1. 6 times 1 is 6. All right, so I have 618. So now I'm going to take 618. I'm going to multiply it times 25. Just pretend like I don't see that decimal. All right, 5 times 8 is 40. Carry the 4. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus the 4 is 9. 5 times 6 is 30. I'll multiply by this, and I'm going to get rid of the 4. I've already used it. Put a placeholder of 0 before I start multiplying by the 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 is 3. And 2 times 6 is 12. And let's just add up what I have. 0, 15, carry the 1, 4, 5, and bring down the 1. And let's see, I didn't commit a number to memory, did I? So I skipped part A, I'm sorry. How many numbers here behind the decimal? 2. How many numbers here behind the decimal? 2. And how many numbers here behind the decimal? 1. So I should have saved the number 5. That's my fault. So now I'm going to go back and go slide over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because I had an even number of negatives, I know it's positive. I'm able to put a 0 there. Now see the 0 at the end? I can get rid of it if I want to. Because zeros at the end don't matter. As long as they're not in the middle of numbers, okay? And that's that. All right, let's take a look at 4. I have 3 numbers behind the decimal. So I'm only going to commit 3 to memory. I'm going to multiply this negative 6 times 3. Or just 6 times 3. I'll pick the sign out in a minute, guys. Not really concerned about the sign. 6 times 3 is 18. I committed 3 to memory. 1, 2, 3. In the empty space, put a 0. I'm able to put a 0 before the decimal. And let's look at the sign. Negative 6 and positive 3 thousandths leaves me with a negative. So number 4 is negative 18 thousandths, guys. And that's all you do. All right. For time's sake, I'm not. Well, go ahead. Pause the video and try all 3 of these on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and try all 3 of those. All right, this is what you should have gotten on number 1 for part A. That's 2 plus 1, which is 3. You're going to commit 3 to memory, the number 3. And we're going to multiply this is 45, and I need more room. 45 times 23. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 4 is 12, plus the 1 is 13. You multiply by the 3, and I'm going to get rid of the 1. Add your 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Remember, that's the placeholder. Carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 plus 1 is 9. Let's add up what we have. Remember, you committed 3 to memory, so slide 3 places to the left. And let's choose our sign. A negative and a negative make a positive when I multiply. So it's positive 1 and 35 thousandths. That's what you should have gotten. All right, part A here. 2 plus 2 is 4. You're going to commit 4 to memory. And B, I'm going to multiply this as 317 times 23. 3 times 7 is 21. Carry the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus the 2 is 5. 3 times 3 is 9. I've used the 3. Now it's time to use the 2. Let me get rid of that 2 that I carried, though. I don't need it. Put a placeholder before you start. 2 times 7 is 14. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 is 3. And 2 times 3 is 6. And let's just add up what we have. 1, 9, 12. Carry the 1. 7. Committed 4 to memory. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm able to put a 0 there. And let's make sure we pick our sign. That actually was part C. Positive 3 and 17 hundredths times negative 23 hundredths leaves us with a negative, guys. Excuse me. All right, I'm going to use the even odd rule on number 3. 1 negative, 2 negatives, 3 negatives. So I already know 3 is an odd number. So I'm going to end up with negative something. All right, so A, let's count 2 numbers there behind the decimal, plus 1 number behind the decimal there, which means I'm going to commit 3 to memory. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply this as, if I can get it to slide up without moving all of my writing. Come on, slide, please. Okay. Not going to do. Okay, I tried. I'm going to multiply this as 273 times 8. As you can see, I don't have enough room. So I'm going to have to erase it, guys. All right, I'm going to multiply 8 times 3, which is 24. Carry the 2. 8 times 7 is 56. 56 plus the 2 is 58. Carry the 5. 8 times 2 is 16, and 16 plus 5 is 21. All right, now I hope you're taking notes. Everybody should be taking notes. I'm going to check these when I get back. I'm going to say 281, 2,184, or 2184. And I'm going to multiply it by 12. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 is 3. And 2 times 2 is 4. Gonna get rid of the 2. Put a placeholder. And I also don't need that 1 I carried. I've already used it. Now I'm going to say 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. And 1 times 2 is 2. And I'm going to add up what I have. 8, 10, carry the 1. That's 12. Carry the 1, that's 6. Bring down my 2. And I committed 3 to memory. 1, 2, 3. And I said it was an odd, 3 is an odd number. So I'm going to end up with some negative answer. So negative 26 and 208 thousandths. You got to keep that 0 because it's in between some numbers, okay? All right, guys. I don't think I'm going to do division today because I'm like really tired. So I'm going to put some work up dealing with multiplication of signed integers. And I'll do division of integers of decimals. Excuse me. I'm going to do multiplication of signed decimals today as homework. And then tomorrow I'll do division of signed decimals. And then I'll put homework, okay? We'll just take it slow. All right, thanks, guys.